Just real quick before I get into the video, I wanted to apologize for the ICBM video with the hidden nerf. I recorded it in advance and I didn't realize I left out an obvious explanation. So just to reiterate, DML and fireworks cannot proc ATG or plasma shrimp. And also we hit 1,000 subs, so that's cool. I'm going to be doing a full comparison between Needletick and Bleed. One of the biggest differences between the two, besides obviously the base damage, is that Bleed stacks infinitely. So even with one stack here, I'm able to go to 7 stacks, but if you're not able to keep stacking it, it'll go away and you'll have to restart. And it does have the lower base damage between the two. And then there's the Void counterpart Needletick. It does have higher base damage, but Collapse only lasts 3 seconds and it doesn't stack infinitely. So you're only able to stack it as fast as you can stack it, as fast as you can proc it within those 3 seconds. But the best way to tell which one is performing better is using the 10-second rule. It was discovered by 3example and it was supported with this video here.
So if you could tell on the left side, which is where the bleed is, as it's wrapping up and the enemy's about dying, on the right side, the Needletick has barely hit the halfway mark. He gave some clarifying thoughts on when Needletick would be better, and he said if you can't stack bleed at all, meaning 1 or very low stacks, target dies between 3 and 10 seconds. That's the 10-second rule, because after 10 seconds, bleed starts to severely outclass Needletick. Or if you have reasonable crit and shatter spleen, meaning you already have a good source of bleed, otherwise it's strictly worse. And one thing I wanted to clarify too from my own notes is that even though it says 3 to 10 seconds, because Collapse goes off in multiples of 3 seconds, it's more like 3 to 9 seconds.
So here's an example of what I mean in run. Here I have Needletick, and if you count the number of explosions, because it's more than 3, this is an example where Bleed would have been the better option. Specifically for Ally Worship Unit, Bleed's better here too, because when it puts its shield up, Bleed's able to continually stack Bleed, where Needletick stacks would be wasted while the shield's up. But one thing Needletick does have over Bleed is, it's kind of a weird way of putting it, but it has better AoE, because you can shoot a bunch of different enemies and you don't have to worry about trying to restack it, you can just hit and run, so to speak. And unlike the Beetle Queen from earlier, here's an example of Needletick being the better option because the enemy dies in 3 stacks or less. With full Needletick, you can get about 19 stacks using Commando's M1, but the damage output it has is really linear. Bleed has more of a gradual overtaking where you can stack it really fast, and as time goes on you can see the health bar starts moving faster and faster. And just a quick side note, proc coefficient does not change the 10-second rule. They're both, base damage. The only difference would be is that Bleed's window to refresh its own stacks would be shorter. But if you have high enough bleed chance with something like Multi's nail gun, that doesn't really matter. I'd say they're both obviously really good. For Bleed, it doesn't go away on Mythric, so you can continue stacking it even after he dashes. It's good for long-term and high health bosses, but it does need to be refreshed constantly. Needletick is great too, less maintenance, you don't need to continually be trying to stack it, better cleanup. The 3 to 10 window, 3 to 9 second window is pretty generous, most enemies will be dead by then. I do think it's better with lower stacks if you can't continually stack Bleed, I think Bleed's worse. But it is outclassed eventually, its damages, and there's not really a benefit from stacking it. The Collapse itself, not the item. Honestly, just take whichever one you think is more fun. They're both really good items, and once again, thanks to 3example for helping me out with this. That's about it. See ya.